Anybody can copy that, so.
Oh, congratulations.
The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
I don't know. It's still one of them days. It's hard, right?
It's been.
Just getting that age.
How are you? Doing well, thank you. Now.
You said you weren't sure if you're gonna make it. I know where someone's. Wow, you know.
The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line.
Well, so that's the bit. This is, you know.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
That's a 13 or 15 years.
Yeah.
I think in a file. You may a little bit.
Nothing was that.
Start talking.
So you.
Judge, we may wanna go ahead and announce what we're gonna do.
Also, this is Mr. Ballinger.
Well, we're gonna get started here.
Oh, on the weather.
I would just announce that. We're gonna do this, then we're-
If I could have everyone's attention real quick, we're actually gonna delay the start of our meeting, and join the state's weather announcements for the pending weather tomorrow. So anybody who may be with us on Zoom, just, I'm not sure you'll be able to see or hear the, weather briefing. If so, we're glad. If not, just hang with us and we'll be back as soon as our meeting starts. Thank you.
One, two, this is plugged in now. Looks like maybe it's working now. There we go. Stupid camera came unplugged. It's winter time. Wouldn't be any fun if everything worked exactly as designed. So, good morning again, just to give the National Weather Service. We have a weather situation developing coming in tonight, roughly going according to plan. I think it's slightly ahead of schedule. What I was just adjusting the forecast to bring the timing in to start it just a little bit sooner. You can see it's already kind of precipitating across parts of north central Arkansas and southern Missouri. And there are going to be two parts to this system. This part right here is from one source of lift, and then this part right here is from another source of lift. This area is going to tend to be a little more icy, a little more freezing rain, drizzle, freezing, type stuff. This is going to be more snow. If I look at the HER model here, this is supposedly where it's at now. Actually, this is where it's at now, so it's too slow. Although I will say there's dry air near the surface that's sort of keeping things from. It'll be a little bit where there'll be precipitation on the radar, and there won't actually be stuff falling. This is about 3-4 p.m. to about 6 p.m. And I think that's probably got the right idea. And earlier we've been talking about starting more like 7 or 8. I do think we're talking about starting a little faster than that. I start increasing the precip chances in this new forecast I'm working on about 4 or 5 o'clock, and then really picks up by 6 o'clock. So that is quite a bit. It's a little bit quicker than what we had. And I do think it still continues until about 1 o'clock tonight. And the trick is going to be, so It's gonna be lit down here across like the southern pennyroyal from one source, and then up here across Missouri and Illinois from the other source. And there could be a spot in the middle where there's not very much lit. And that could result in virtually no precip or freezing drizzle is what I'm concerned about. And it's extremely hard to forecast that and extremely hard to get a handle on that. But my impression on this, due to the impacts that freezing drizzle has, is to be a little more aggressive with warning. Be a little more, hey, this could be a pain in the tail at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning tomorrow across a bigger chunk of the area. The model here has it, as in the area that we don't have the advisory, like Trigg, Christian, Todd has more rain. I'm worried the dry air may result in it being a little cooler than expected. We're talking with Springfield. They're in the process of maybe doing an advisory for most of their area. And we may expand our advisory too. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be worse than what we expected, because I don't think it will. But freezing drizzle is very impactful. Makes things very slick. We've got that dip in the difference in the dew point, and the surface temperature is about 6 degrees. It's going to dry. It's going to cool up. When we get that, a lot of times we'll see it stick to pavement very efficiently. Now we will be treating that pavement in most places, but where we don't, it could be a little bit slick. So I'll show you the good old slides that we've got. This is the overall brief. So there's where our winter weather advisory is currently, officially, for parts of West Kentucky, Southern, Southwest Indiana. May add these 3 here in the next hour or so, and then may also string back a couple counties here across Southern Illinois, Southeast Missouri. I'm not sure how far to go. It is going to snow there, very common, but our criteria is 2 inches, or really what our criteria is impact to travel. And I'm leaning on the idea that there will be impact to travel even in the snow zone there, because there'll be enough mixed mode for precip impacts or snow slick road impacts. It won't necessarily be like Interstate 57, because they'll be treating that and stuff. But I just don't like the way that this event looks from a travel impact standpoint. And I still haven't completely decided, and we as a team haven't completely decided that we're on the right track there, but be alert for that. And I would basically, if you're in our area, our 58 counties, be prepared for travel impacts in the morning that will, improve, because the sun will come up. Temperatures will go up tomorrow during the day a little bit, but it'll be below freezing in all of our area probably until at least noon tomorrow. And then our max temps tomorrow are only 33, 34, 32. So it's not going to warm up a ton. We will get a little bit of sun starting to pop out, and that will help. Should significantly help paved surfaces warm up and improve. Here's our official forecast right now: 1 to 2 inches snow, Mount Vernon, Piedmont, Cape Girardeau about 1 inch, and then 100th to 1/10 of an inch of ice, freezing rain from Murray, New Madrid, maybe even into Hopkinsville, and that's kind of like I said, what we're still evaluating. Not briefing here. This is the one that I'll show you. I've got 2 briefings I'm doing this morning. That's the slide for the other one. They're very similar. There's our timing, and again, I think that's going to be move this forward about 3 hours everywhere, and I think that'll be close. So I'm trying to get the forecast to spit out now. So 5 p.m. Poplar Bluff, 6 p.m. Paducah, 7 p.m., 5 p.m. Murray, Benton, 6 p.m. or so Mount Carbondale and Cape Girardeau, and then Evansville probably about 7 or 8. They're not going to be as impacted by that area coming up the southeast, and then ending probably tonight, although I am a little alert for freezing drizzle because we're getting that shallow funnel forcing. And that's kind of what's got me uncomfortable for travel impact. And I might be completely wrong. It's happened before. But it doesn't sit well with me here, the way things look right now. No warm up expected over the next 7 days. Lows will be below freezing each night, well below freezing midweek. Areas that see snow tonight, snow cover will keep temperatures very low midweek, although I don't think we're going to see so much snow cover that really dramatically change our temperature. It's just going to be wintertime cold. Here we look. I'll tell you kind of, this is, grab this. So this is 6 p.m. on one of our models. Let me see the newest run, see what it's showing. A little bit slower. No, actually, no, it's not going that far in the future. So here's 6 p.m. Okay, yeah. Let me compare model loop. I'll look at all of our models. You can see all of them by 6 p.m. We're bringing it well into our CWA, or our area of responsibility. I think that's probably right. And you can see that this gap in some of our models, and that is because this is the European, which is a good model, forcing from what we call warm air advection down here and then jet level of staff up here, and there's a gap in the middle. Could be that that gap gets completely scoped, gets nothing, but I'm, like I said, suspicious for freezing drizzle in between the two. And probably will adjust our products accordingly here in the coming hour or so, unless you get convinced otherwise. So that's what we've got. It's kind of messy in the morning is the long story. Everyone in our area would need to be alert for that. And everyone in the area may end up in a winter weather advisory before the morning is over, depending. Actually, that beep was some of our neighboring offices were discussing kind of what we want to do in our strategy for that. So it's all changing as we go. And I'll try to keep it, we'll try to keep it as consistent as we can, but we're going to make sure that we get it as right as we can. So if somebody have any questions, you can just chat them to me. We can answer them more specifically. And I have questions too. You can hear me now. I knew as soon as the chat popped up, everybody was chatting that I'm undone there. I made a different seat than I normally am, so everything's a little off. So that's what we got. Oh, if you are planning on coming to our Winter Weather Workshop tomorrow in Carterville, we're going to move that to virtual. I think there's just too much probability of slick stuff, especially between here and Carterville, and then maybe even up in Carterville and the Interstate 24 bridge and all that stuff. I think it's just going to be better for everybody to do that virtually. We hate to do that, but I think it's probably the best. More conferences today, not a formal conference probably. What we'll probably do is like a video that we'll send out on Slack or on Facebook or the other stuff like that. We've got our weekly partner call that we'll do at 11, but it will probably be pretty abbreviated because it's basically the same information. Only difference is we may have made some more decisions on what we're going to do with our advisory and stuff like that. So there is a partner call at 11, the group that usually does that. And then otherwise it'll be Facebooks and videos and stuff like that. And we'll be in Slack doing our typical things and trying to get this pieced out. Any other questions before we wrap up? The step for Snow and Ice, Walter County, start would be about 5 to 6 p.m. tonight. That's my concern there. See, here's her, and they look back over.
She says it's probably enough.
There's 4 p.m.
Okay. Well, welcome to winter, folks.
All right. Now that we know exactly what might happen. Changing conditions.
He's wrong. He's wrong.
Now tomorrow as it develops and may change, whatever. Everybody's perfectly clear. So we'll go ahead then and start our meeting. I think Angela's gonna check and see if we have a quorum or not. We didn't have earlier, but we'll do what we can.
We don't have anything today that requires any major decisions anyways. It's mostly informational, so.
Okay. All right. So to start off, I would ask everyone to please stand, and Mayor Thomas is going to lead us in opening prayer, and then we'll have our pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day, Lord. I just thank you for everyone that's here, dear Lord, the public servants, dear Lord, and the communities that we serve, dear Lord. I just pray you to continue to put a hedge of protection around each of us, dear Lord. Just bless our communities during these storms, dear Lord. Just provide us with the equipment and the materials that we need, dear Lord, to just get everything back to normal, dear Lord. I just thank you for loving us, dear Lord. I thank you for protecting us, dear Lord. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
We'll join the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, as I mentioned, we do not have a quorum, so we won't be able to approve our prior meeting minutes. However, if you picked a copy of those up, hopefully between now and our next meeting, where we will hopefully have a quorum and get those approved, take a look at those. Let Angela know if there's any need for correction or amendments. So we'll move on then and allow Angela to proceed with her list of items.
Yeah, if you guys notice, there's a bunch of attachments back there in the back, so if you don't have those, may want to make sure you get those, so you have everything in front of you that I'm going to be talking about. So we're just gonna start with the wrap up of shift and the shift status. Everything that we need to do, we've done. It's all in the hands of the state at this point, and they are doing all the things that they need to do. They're having the conversations, having the meetings, getting the highway plan in draft form so it can move forward. So hopefully we'll be hearing some things about that in the spring of next year. But if there's any questions about any of those projects or where those things are, feel free to call, email, text at any time. I'm glad to call and check up on those things as we move forward with that. So the other thing that we have in your packet, let me get some of these things out of the way, is the so it's at the top, it says 1F, it's a one sheeter. It is the review and response to rural consultation reports. So this is a sheet out of our annual work program that we get every year from KYTC. This is something that happens every 5 years, and this is the year that they did it. I'm sure you all will remember, beginning in the late summer, early fall, I started hounding you all with emails about the rural consultation survey, and please fill it out, make sure you do it. And I sent 4 or 5 emails, so I'm sure you all remember that. This is the result of that. And we are sent this document. So it's a multi-page document that looks like this from the KYTC, and it's a summary of those responses. And they tell us if we have any that are on the negative. So if we have any areas that are identified in that survey that really need improvement, and they, tell us which ones we did really good on. So the ones that you have in front of you, all of ours were in the green. So you'll see they're all green. We did have one that had an asterisk beside it, which meant the majority of it was good, but there were still some questions. And so what they provide us with is the questions that we need to respond to. It's not anything that we got a negative comment on, but there are questions that they want us to respond to. And so on the first page of this, it's the asterisk question is, how familiar are you with the Strategic Highway Investment Formula for Tomorrow, SHIFT, and its role in the transportation process? And so the majority of people that answered that question in the survey said they were very familiar, but there were some that were unfamiliar with it. And so they wanted us to give a response and a potential corrective action for that. So you'll see my responses in the italics below. Basically, when I went back and looked at the respondents to that question, that said they were somewhat unfamiliar or very unfamiliar with the SHIFT process, it was coming from members of a community that aren't directly represented as membership on this board. So it might be a mayor of a small community. I'm sure you all know, we have in some of our counties have multiple small cities. You have your county seat, which is usually the person that participates on this board as a representative of the county. And then you may have 4 or 5 smaller cities. And we try to communicate with them, but they don't get the regular notices the way you all do. So what I have done as a response to that is I have added all of the mayors to our RTC announcements that go out that you all get with the outlook. So they will be aware of all of the meetings that we have. They will see the agendas. They will see the things that I send out to you all. And they can come to the meetings. They're more than welcome to come to the meetings. They just don't have a voting position with the RTC. And if they want, they can also check it out on our YouTube channel. We'll talk about that a little bit later on with some of the other questions. But I've asked Melissa to add these meetings to our YouTube channel for people that just out in the community want to watch and see what's going on. The other thing that I would like to do, and you'll see that these answers that I'm telling you right now are going to be kind of overarching over these 3 or 4 questions that I've got responses to. I want to reach out to KYTC. Jason Blackburn specifically has volunteered to do some education on the shift process as we move forward in these non-shift years. So I'm going to work with him to try to get some of those education sessions here for you all to learn a little bit more about the process. The second question is there on page 3. It says, what improvements would make the Regional Transportation Committee more effective? And you'll see all of the answers that where people actually typed in answers underneath that question. And then my response is in the italics on, I guess that's page 4. I should have been on the pages. Sorry about that. So the overarching kind of repetitive answers were more information on project status, upcoming meetings, and what's happening regionally and statewide. So as I said, we've already included the mayors. So all the mayors will be notified about all the information that you all get from me on a regular basis. If there is anybody's county road department or city street department folks that you all want added, please let me know. I'm glad to add those people, to these listings as these emails go out. There's a few that are already represented that might be a county road department superintendent or the street department superintendent that are already on these lists. But if you want yours added, please let me know. Let's see here. So, and another thing was adding the meetings to the YouTube channel, which we've done starting today. So, anybody from the public at all can get on the YouTube channel and see that. So we want to make sure that we're increasing that transparency and that openness with our community to keep that going. So the next question is, what would encourage you to participate more in the Transportation Committee meetings? And you'll see the responses there. It seems like the most of the issues were, a perceived lack of impact, desire for improved communication, general engagement fatigue, time and resource, constraints. So, some of the things that were thought of as far as, having fewer competing priorities. Well, I mean, we're not going to have that happen. What we've done previous to this transportation survey even being done was we are trying to combine water council meeting and transportation committee meeting days. We have those on the same day, so you don't have to travel quite as much if you participate on both of those. Also, something that we changed last year was we added it where if it was the mayor or actually any of the voting members of the RTC, if you can't attend, you can designate someone else to vote on your behalf. So a lot of the cities, if the mayor can't be there, they've got a designee. And planning commissions can do that, chambers can do that. I'm trying to think of anybody else. That pretty much covers all of our voting members. The at-large members are, I don't know that they necessarily need a designee because they're an individual person that's recommended We also send out the minutes and agendas, and we put those on the website. I mentioned the improvement in the education element of being on the RTC. This will be really good for me too, to go through each of these different parts of the annual work plan and talk about them and think of questions to ask, to the folks at KYTC if there's something that it doesn't quite come across as clear. Something else that we kind of thought about, was adding a local spotlight to our meetings, like, highlighting a specific problem that you're having in your county. Almost every single time we meet, we've got our district folks here, and I know that, there are folks from central office that get on and participate in our Zooms. So if we have, a pressing issue or a success story, maybe that's something we can add to our regularly scheduled meetings. And then the last question, was really more about the transportation planner. And so, you all were very, very nice, and that really, those answers made me smile. So thank you so much for all the really super nice things that you all said, in the survey. But I do want to work harder on providing more regular project status updates and highlighting the connections between the RTC and the recommendation and the transportation projects. I really want to work towards more education on the annual work program, which is pretty much what the rest of our agenda is about. I would like to do those local spotlights. So if you have something in mind that you'd like to include in our next meeting for your community, let me know. I'll kind of start trying to get those lined up. And I really want to get a set meeting schedule. I've worked with Mike Good here in our office to try to work out what works best with the water council schedule and what works best for us as far as like shift years and non-shift years. What we've come up with is meetings in February, May, August, and December. Because the water council stuff has to be done like right at the beginning of December. We're probably looking at like the first Wednesday of those months. If anybody has any like glaring conflicts with the first Wednesday of the months of February, May, August, and December, let me know, and we'll try to pull back and reconsider that. But right now, that's what we're planning on going with, I think. So we did communicate that with our district partners, and I think there's at least one conflict there that we're trying to kind of work through. But we do make everything where you can participate online. We prefer to have you here in person with your smiling faces, but if we absolutely have to, we could do some of that virtually too. So, all right, moving right along. Does anybody have any questions about this survey or anything that we can do differently or anything that we can add that we haven't already touched on?
No, but the first Wednesday in February is your judge executive conference.
Of course. So how about the second Wednesday in February? So we need to mark that down. Is that pretty consistent every year? Okay, okay. All right. So we will take a look at that. So I have also included in your packet of information, this is a 2-page document out of our annual work program that tells you everything that we submit to KYTC for every month during the program year. This is all of our program deliverables. Technically, it's 3 pages because it's in one and back, but so the ones that we're going to talk about, I know you'll see in your agenda that it takes us through March. I set that agenda before we kind of talked about what our meeting schedule might look like. So really, we're only gonna talk about, well, I mean, we can go ahead and talk about all of them, but the ones that I want to talk about in depth are for December and January. So the next attachment says Work Element 1 Program Administration. And this covers all of the program administration activities that we're responsible to KYTC for during the year. For the month of December, that includes the quarterly report and the first part of the annual assessment. That is something that is usually all on me. And when we have meetings that coincide with those quarterly reports, I usually provide you all copies of those. So you can kind of see what we do over the quarter. Since we're kind of off as far as that, I might start just sending those out to you all so you can kind of see and go through the things that we do. We start with them obviously at the beginning of the program year. So October is the first one that we do, and then this will be our second one. And when you get them, they're progressive. So you'll be able to see in the one I send now, the accomplishments from the first quarter and the accomplishments from the second quarter. So we also have our quarterly invoice, but that's an accounting thing where they send that up to KYTC. So I didn't include that in this list, but that is something else that the ad does in accordance with the work program. The first part of the annual assessment, we're doing that this week sometime. It's usually a phone call with my contact that I work through on the planning side in Frankfurt. And we just go over the deliverables and the accomplishments that we've done so far and make sure that I'm on the right track and that I know what's coming up. And if there's anything that we need to address, that's usually what we talk about during that meeting. But I'll do one of those. I do one in December, and then we usually do one in June. That's kind of a wrap up of the whole year. And a lot of times that one's an in-person, but it just kind of depends on what the travel is like for the folks at the state level. So, but I do have that scheduled here pretty quick. I think it's this week, maybe the 4th. But that's not anything that you all usually are even aware of. And so I want to make sure in this effort of making sure that you all kind of learn the process along with me as we're going through this, that you know the things that are going on. So January, we've got two pretty big ones, and they are 2C, which is your list of contacts and resources. This is the page out of the work program, so you can kind of know what it is that it's supposed to be and what we have to do. And then you have the big 11 by 17 printout. And I know, y'all, I'm sorry, it's super tiny, but in order for me to get it on one sheet, that's as small as as big as I can get it. But you'll see it's got multiple categories. And like the very first page is planning commissions. And so planning commissions, fiscal courts, city councils, and it's got all of the folks that I'm aware of, their name, their title, their address, city, state, zip, the county that they represent, phone numbers, emails, and websites. We did a complete overhaul of this last year and tried to get everything really in a better format. It was in a Word document, so now it's in Excel. It's a lot easier to work with and fill in. But please take this and take a look through it for your county and see if there's something that needs to be updated, if there's something that needs to be changed. Because we will send this to KYTC at the end of January. That's one of our deliverables for the month of January. So that's the list of contacts and resources. The next one is the Regional Transportation Committee. You've got a little 2-pager that's stapled together that's from the work program on that. And that is our second deliverable that we will need to submit in January. And it looks a lot like your sign-in sheet back there. but it's got all of the other information added in there as far as mailing address, phone number, email address, things of that nature. So if there's something in there, because I have like 4 Excel sheets, so this one, I try to make sure they all get transposed between all the different Excel sheets, but I'm only human, so if they happen to notice something that's incorrect or needs to be restated on this, please let me know. We'll get that fixed. Before the due date in January. For February and March, you'll see we've got rail freight loading and unloading locations, major freight users inventory, and park and ride. And so when we have our next meeting, I'll do the same thing for those. I'll print the sheets out of the annual work program so you can kind of see the narrative, what it's about, what it's supposed to be, what we have to do to make sure that those stay updated, and what we have to supply the transportation cabinet as it relates to those things when we turn in our deliverables. So, are there any questions? Is there anything that, no, it's a lot of information to kind of throw at you all at once. But I want this to be a regular part of our meeting, that we have an ongoing conversation about what it is actually that we are responsible for, that's separate from and outside of the shift process. So, the next thing that we've got on there is the SS4A update. Melissa, is Adam online? Is he on the? Okay. So we've got Adam Kirk, from UK.
I'm here, Angela. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. He's gonna give us just a brief update as to where we are with the SS4A project.
All right. Thank you, Angela. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Gonna give you just a few quick updates, not take up too much of your time, but to let you know where we are and what's coming next for the Safe Streets and Roads for All program for Pennyroyal Ag. So to just give you a refresher, the Safe Streets and Roads for All program is a grant from the US DOT. There was $5 billion that was released over 5 years, so $1 billion a year, in order to fund local road improvements. So this was one of the things that was most different about this grant, is that instead of going through KYTC or the state DOTs, it was direct to locals with a concentration on safety. And so of that $1 billion a year, it was separated into 2 funding mechanisms. The first was to develop a safety action plan, and then the other portion of that funds was to actually fund improvements. In order to fund improvements, you needed to have a safety action plan in place. And so Pennyroyal Ad, along with several other ads in Kentucky, applied for what they called a planning grant or a safety action plan grant, and was awarded that back in 2022. Just give you a real quick picture. Pennyroyal was one of the first ads to submit and be awarded that, and you can see all the other ones that are in that first round in that dark blue. Since that time, every other ad in Kentucky has applied for and received a planning grant. So Big Sandy is not showing up yet. Theirs is new and it's not up on the map, but so everybody has been participating in developing those safety action plans. Just a real quick reminder on, what is in a safety action plan. The first thing that we've done is gone through and looked at crash analysis. So the crash analysis that we've conducted looks at a couple of different things. Number one, trying to identify what are the most common types of crashes that occur on our local roadways. And especially due to our county mileage and the low volumes on those county roadways, what we see consistently is that it's single vehicle collision. So it's where somebody's running off the road, whether that be due to an animal, whether it be due to geometry, or not having much of a recovery area on the side of the road. It's those single vehicle collisions that are both the most frequent on our local roadways as well as the most severe. So, if you're running off the road and you hit a tree or you overturn, those are, and they're also higher speed. So we see a high rate of severity associated with those. We've completed the crash analysis. We've gotten a lot of these different things through, and where we're at in the process right now is identifying the strategic safety plans and strategic safety projects for each of those local roadways. So we also had done a public survey. Hopefully many of you in the room had completed that. So just some of the general information we're looking at is, how safe do you feel walking and driving in your community? And this is pretty typical of what we see on local roadways, is that most people are comfortable driving, but walking, bicycling, things like that, people start to get a little bit more uncomfortable. What we've also done is, asked for, where are, potentially hazardous locations on your local roads, and we've got a map of those, and we're working through those right now to identify improvements for them, and then to either identify whether that's a local roadway, whether it's a state-owned roadway, and get that information to the appropriate roadway owner for those roadways. I do want to give a shout out to Penny Rowell Ad, of all of the different ads that we have done the survey in. You guys are the leader in terms of survey responses. So we had 233 survey responses to this, which really just kind of shows your commitment and Angela's expertise in getting the word out there and getting everybody to fill those out. So I appreciate everybody taking part in that. I mentioned the strategic projects, and I want to give you an overview of, what to expect. And so we're really concentrating on what we refer to as low cost or systemic measures. And when we talk about, these systemic measures, we're not looking at major projects, say fixing in it, like completely redoing an intersection, completely realigning a roadway. Rather, when we look at our local road crashes, what happens is they're kind of scattered through off the roadway. So if you think of your local roads, there's many points that you can run off the road. What typically happens is you run off the road where both the roadway is conducive to you running off the road, but it's also where maybe you are slightly distracted, or you sneeze, or a squirrel runs out in front of you, or something else happens. So there's usually the opportunity on the roadway, and then something else happens that makes you depart. And so because that can happen anywhere, we kind of get these really scattered crashes. So we can't necessarily address one location. We have to address kind of the entire length of the roadway. And so we look at systemic measures that we can put wherever we see that there are conditions conducive to a crash, and we try to keep them relatively low cost. So, one of the big ones that we see a good reduction in run off the road crashes and a high benefit cost is looking at curve signing. So, if we've got a hidden curve, or you've got a sharp curve that needs an advisory speed, we see about a 20% reduction in crashes when we put those signs out. Signs are expensive, but compared to a lot of the other things we can do on our roadways, they're pretty low cost. So, looking at horizontal alignment signing, looking at edge line striping, even on narrow roadways, we can see that edge line striping can help provide that additional guidance. Looking at shouldering improvements in case if you do run off the roadway, even providing 1 or 2 feet that you can recover and get back on before you run into a tree or you get stuck in a ditch. Placing object markers where there are hazards, looking at intersection warning signs, addressing wet weather collisions, vegetation management, trying to identify fixed objects that can be removed. We've got a lot of fixed objects in the form of trees and utility poles. There are some of those, that we can say, yes, we can remove this, and making sure that we get those out, especially the ones that are most close to the roadway. And then addressing guardrail. And if we have any guardrail needs, or if we've got guardrail that may not be serving a purpose, but is more of a fixed object on the roadway. So those are the types of improvements that we're going to be identifying, or that we are identifying. And so what you are going to receive as a county or city that's collected your data, that's participating in this, is a listing of your roadways with these improvements identified. And so, that is going to give you a good starting point, and it'll also kind of prioritize your roadways, so you can go through those and say, okay, these are some things to consider. I do want to, and we'll talk about this at the very end, but this doesn't have to be the end of your plan. If there are specific improvements, because your roads better than I do. I haven't been able to drive all of your roadways. I'm able to look at a lot of pictures of them, but I'm still not, able to drive all of those roads. If there is a project that you say, this is a location that we really need to address, and you've got a plan for that, or an idea of a plan, we can also incorporate that into the safety action plan. So once it's in that plan, then it also becomes eligible for receiving additional funds. And so what we'll be doing once we get the plan assembled is then starting to say, are there other grant funds from USDOT that can fund some of these improvements? Are there KYTC safety funds that we can leverage for some of these safety improvements, or what's out there, so that we can start to look these in? Most of our federal grants and our KYTC programs require that those improvements be identified in the safety plan. So that's why I really want to stress, if you've got something, don't just, if you see it and you say, hey, well, they didn't address this intersection or this curve that we know what we need to do to fix it, let us know, and we can get that into our plan, and then it can become eligible for funding from there. This is a real quick screen grab of the data collection that has been done. Pennyroyal district as a whole, we've collected over 2,000 individual hazard points. So these are things like dangerous curves, dangerous intersections, where we've got sight distance restricted, edge drop-offs. So over 2,000 individual points along these roadways, that we're taking that information in conjunction with the crash patterns that we see and identifying those strategic projects. I do want to point out, Crittenden County, we bugged Judge Newcomb several years ago as part of one of our local road safety plans. And so we do have a lot of data for Crittenden County that's not on there. If you're in one of those counties that, you may not have that many data points that are on, this is your plan. The more data points that you have, the more hazards you identify on your roadways, the more we can develop projects, the more we can develop issues and kind of give you an accounting of those issues. So at the end of the day, every roadway that you have visited, you're going to have a listing of potential improvements. And then you're also going to have specific points along that road where we can say, hey, we need to install curve warning signs at this location. We need to, place object markers. Maybe we need to do shouldering or address this drop off. So any of those locations that are identified, we'll be identifying improvements for it that will be incorporated into that plan, that again are eligible for funding. So, if you're looking at this and you're saying, hey, we can get a little bit more data out, we can, identify some more roads, by all means, let me know, let Angela know, and we can work with you to get those roadways finished up. We're working through this right now. The plan is to get it done before Christmas. It's coming a lot quicker than I thought, and it always does at this time of year. But end of the year, very beginning of January, we'll have the plan complete. What we ask you to do is, again, this is a safety plan for your community. We ask that you review that plan and say, maybe you disagree with the proposed improvements. You say, we're not going to put, stop bars. We're not going to put edge lines on this roadway, and we can take those off. Or you say, this is another treatment that we've done in these locations, and we can put that on there. When you go through it, say, is there another road that you'd like to be reviewed? Maybe you didn't have the time to get out and collect all the safety hazards that we had originally discussed, and you're like, you know what, I want to look at a few more roadways. Absolutely, let us know. We can incorporate those into it. And then, as I mentioned earlier, is there a big project that you have in your community that you say, this is the biggest safety project we've got, and we want to address that? And if that's the case, let us know, and we can work with you to get that improvement into the plan as well. So this is your plan. We're doing the best we can from, I'm in Lexington. We're doing the best we can to make it specific to your roadways, but we don't know them like you do. And so that's why we do ask, when you receive these, if there's anything that you think, hey, this needs to be incorporated, let's get it in there so it can be eligible for funding, so we can start trying to figure out how we can get that project implemented as we go through there. So that's when you get it, that's what we're asking you to do, just say, hey, review it. Nobody's going to hurt my feelings. If you don't find any value in it and you want to change it up, we'll go back and we'll change it and work with you to get a plan that you can use in your county or in your city. That's my quick overview. I might have gone over my 5 minutes in time, but if you have any questions at all, like I said, feel free to reach out to me. My email and number is there, or reach out to Angela and she can get in touch with me as well. So if you got something great to say about me, you can always email my boss. That's Martha Horseman. If you got complaints, just send that one to me. But any questions at all on the Safe Streets and Roads for All update as we've laid it out?
I don't think we're good. Thanks for that. And if we have any questions, we'll be sure to get in touch.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna bounce back on our agenda here just for a second. We do now have a quorum established. So we'll bounce back up to approval of our minutes from the August 27th meeting. Hopefully we've had a chance to look through those.
We approve the minutes.
Motion by Mayor Green, do I have a second? Second by Judge Mansfield. Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. All right, thank you all. At this time, we'll move on into our district reports, and this start with District 1 and Austin Hart.
All right, good morning, everyone. Was looking over the meeting minutes from last time. Always try to review and see what notes that, we spoke about from the district, and happy to report most of the things that we said we're finishing up have indeed finished. Judge Green, we finally got your bridge open there. We got that one finished.
I go with Perry.
That was a long one in process. And then Judge Newcomb there for 1050 Road. We're getting really close. So the goal is to have it open by the end of the year. Was checking on it right beforehand, and he didn't want to give me a date, but he said Christmas. So don't hold us to that. Likewise, on our I-24 study, we have another team meeting coming up on December the 18th. At that time, the consultant will propose a few different build alternatives, and we'll start to look at where we should focus on which section of I-24 at that time. So for District 1, our focus is going to be in the Paducah area. That's where our greatest need is. So in the first 70 miles, specifically around the mall exit, And what we're seeing is that there's a lot of local commuters in the McCracken County area that use it. And if you look at the traditional through volumes, that the interstate's not overly at capacity, but when you see those commuters specifically in the afternoon times, that's when the interstate really starts to approach full capacity for 4 lanes. So Ms. Henderson may be able to give y'all some more updates for the Oak Grove area. Some other good news, our rehab section in Lyon and Caldwell County, that was awarded to Jim Smith Contracting in our October letting, roughly a $34 million project. They are going to start that in the spring. And then we have lots of work that we're doing in True County. I won't notice Judge Humphrey's here today. I have lots of good news to tell him and he's not here, so.
Bake today.
But looking still there on the interstate, the work that's been taking place on the Cerulean Road overpass, that contractor's coming back in next week, may even be here this week. They're gonna work between now and Christmas to get that finished up. The work was mostly bridge repairs, and as that contractor started, they kept finding more areas they needed to keep working on. So they'll be back later this week, continue working. And then Harper Contracting out of Paducah is going to be on the eastbound lane, starting at the Katie's exit, moving towards Christian County, replacing slabs between now and Christmas. And really that's about it. There's a few bridges on Kentucky 807 Donaldson Creek Road that Harper's, once they finish the slab work on the interstate, they're going to go down and work on some of those smaller bridges. Other than that, it's kind of a fairly light update for District 1 at the end of the year. Mostly just been wrapping everything up that we talked about in the August timeframe. Any questions from the group?
Austin, are they going back with concrete or are they going with asphalt on 24?
That is an asphalt. It was bid as an alternate concrete or asphalt, and the winning bid Jim Smith submitted was an asphalt. But it will be full depth asphalt. Will involve removal of all the concrete like we did in the True County section a few years back. Asphalt's what'll be going back. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Now we'll move on into District 2 and Denitra.
All right, good morning. So just like Austin said, we were wrapping up construction activities for the winter, and winter is coming. So big news today is that we are pre-treating. I saw District 1 and District 3 had some counties on the pre-treating list as well. And there are some people, believe it or not, that do not realize snow is coming until they see those little white lines on the road, including my mother, who messaged me about 15 minutes ago and said she doesn't know I'm the they, I guess. They are pre-treating. Is there weather coming? So yes, Mom, you need to get home by 6 o'clock tonight. So that's the big news today, and then more weather coming in. I understand you have a little update for National Weather Service before I come in. So our I-24 update, our next meeting is December 18th. I know a couple of you had asked me if we had seen the plan yet. We've not. But the next opportunity for an update will be the project team meeting on the 18th. And alternative to what Austin said, in District 2, the primary focus is near the Tennessee state line. That's where our heaviest areas of traffic is down near Oak Grove in that area. We have a bridge letting in December I'm excited about, and South Christian will be as well. And that is the I-24 overpass interchange at Kentucky 115. The structure only will be let in December. And so we're still working with Buc-ee's about the service station they proposed there. We're working with them on their internal design, because Buc-ee's will be completing or building the 3 roundabouts, one at each exit ramp and then another at their entrance. They will be building that with their contractor, and then they'll be paying for that themselves, and they'll be doing it through an encroachment permit. So KYTC reviews those plans, make sure it meets Adam Kirk that we just heard from. He reviews those from a roundabout compliance standpoint. And so really the ball is in their court on when they get started on that. But what we're letting in December, when you see that work start, is a counterpart bridge to the one overpass that's on 115 now. We will build another structure similar to it so that we can increase the capacity before that station opens. So trying to get a head start on that, because the bridge construction is what takes it. Any other questions? No?
Any questions? Thank you, Danica. And then we'll wrap up with District Three's Joe Plonk.
Good morning, everyone. For Todd County, our biggest project is US 79. We talk about it every time we meet. And we have good news to report. So we did open bids in July. In August, we had our pre-construction meeting with Scotty's. This is the project that goes from the state line to Novella, so 3 miles, about $8 million. That's just construction, not to mention all the rights of way and utilities. We had a pre-construction meeting a few weeks ago, November 15th. They are expecting to start work in December. There's a lot of utility work that's also part of the road contract, so that's expected to be finished by March. Then all year of widening. So bear with us and be patient. There's going to be road impact, traffic impacts throughout the year. The completion date is November 15th. So by a year from now, we should be celebrating a modernized US 79. The next section, though, is in design. We've talked about that all the way to Russellville, 17 miles. That is, preliminary engineering is completed and final design is not yet authorized. So we're hopeful that either the next highway plan or even before we'll be able to move forward with that. Judge and I, we talked about the Highway 848 bridge. This is Pincham Road over Spring Creek. That 3-ton limit is really impactful to your locals, especially to the farming, agricultural community. So there's a lot of these bridges. I think Austin mentioned this, that across the state, they're part of what we used to call the Bridging Kentucky program. And we have consultants working on those. So we just had our scope verification meeting in the field in October. And that's where we're starting the design. So the goal is to have as many of these designed and all the project developed so that when funds are authorized, hopefully in the next biennium, we'll be ready to go with construction. But there's no ETA on when that will start. But the good news is we've started with design. A few other resurfacing projects. Greenville Road we just opened bids on that 2 weeks ago. That's about 6 miles from Highway 507 to 107 in North Todd with a June completion. And then our rural secondary that we reported to you last March, that's on Highway 507 Pilot Rock Road in Highland. That should have just been completed. And then an announcement really for everyone, TAP, Transportation Alternatives Program. I'm sure Angela will mention, or she's already emailed you about that. So these are mostly bike ped, think sidewalks for your communities. And a lot of you have been successful with these. So that application process is open now until January 19th. And certainly encourage you to reach out to your highway districts if you're looking for guidance to get, ideas on cost estimating and what's feasible for your communities as you're trying to go for these projects. So we wish you luck with that. And that's all I have. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe. Real quick, would like to recognize Representative Walter Thomas. Thank him for being here with us today. And Representative Thomas, do you have anything you'd like to share with the group?
No, just I gotta hope the roads are kind of clear because I am heading to Frankfurt tomorrow evening, and so we are in the middle of the budget process, just going through each cabinet's requests and stuff, and trying to hone through it, going through transportation budgets. Once again, there's a lot more projects than there are money, and we're trying to narrow it down into which is the most important. That's about it.
Thank you.
We should all congratulate you. I think Representative Thomas has a new grandbaby over Thanksgiving.
2 days ago, so yeah.
That's always a good time for holidays.
Okay, Angela mentioned earlier, her efforts to try to coordinate our meetings on a better schedule. And I think she's been working on that, while others have been presenting. And I just want to let you all know, if you want to write it down, the proposed or the scheduled 26 meeting dates for our quarterly meeting will take place, February 11th, May 6th, August 5th, and December 2nd. So hopefully everybody that'll fit your schedules, and we can keep a quorum where we keep these meetings running timely. I appreciate you all being here today and for helping us get that quorum established, taking care of the one item of business that we had to get approved, which was our minutes. And with that, does anyone have any other comments? All right, hearing none, need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Judge Gillen, second by Scott Marshall. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Water Management Council meeting, yes, this one.